validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. It is Wednesday. And I'm gonna swear, I thought today was Thursday. I was like, man, I got this to do, I got that to do. I was setting up my day. Well, and I got this one. I was like, today Wednesday. So look, today we are going to be talking about India, one of those very cheap places to live, because we cover a different country every week. We do have Sarah coming to the show next week, Wednesday, to give dating advice, as you guys see in the information above. And we will be starting on time at 11 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time, which is 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. But that will force our Wednesday discussion of a different country to live in to Thursday, because we are accommodating Sarah's schedule. So we're going to have a live guest on the show next week, Wednesday. So anybody who has questions, dating advice, challenges to her dating advice, whatever you guys want to do, as long as you keep it appropriate, you come to the show on next week, Wednesday, and throughout her time, we will be discussing dating tips and dating advice, and she will be talking about her 12-week program that she offers for those gentlemen that are looking to improve their dating skills. And she will be answering any questions that you guys bring onto the show, as long as those questions are appropriate. So make sure that you guys remember that part. In addition to that, We are live 7 nights a week, and we don't let the sun rise without going live. So we make it a point to come to the show and talk to you guys about a different topic every night of the week that is either related to primarily business and finance, savings and investing, so that you guys can improve your wealth and your income, different places to live to improve your ability to make your money go a little bit further, and then personal improvement, social improvement, relationship improvement, whether it's romantic relationships, friendships, work relationships, partnerships, and other such, because being able to make these changes in your life makes you, it brings you a higher level of peace. And in addition to bringing you a higher level of peace, it puts you in a position where you're able to capitalize more on your life. Because if there's anything about your life that you wish were different, there is another way. Not everything is hopeless. Not everything is somebody else's fault. So what we try to do is, instead of having a pity party and blaming everybody else in the world about the things that we would prefer go a different direction, instead, I'm giving you guys all of the tips and tricks and information as to how to make changes in your life that will improve you. So I understand that when you're having complications in your personal life, whether it's family, whether it's relationships, children, whatever, those complications compromise your ability to think clearly in the workplace, which compromises your ability to maintain a stable job or improve your financial success in employment. I also understand that when money is tight and you're not making the money that you want to make off of your work, that financial stress negatively impacts your ability to positively impact or engage the people that you care about. So one plays off of the other one, and they both impact each other. So this podcast focuses on both. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we talk about money, finance, business, investments, living expenses, other such. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we talk about personal improvement. Sunday is our members only show that allows us to answer questions or comments to the fans. Now, we are a highly interactive podcast, meaning anybody that is watching the show, if you've guys got a question or a comment, you not only can click the links that you see on Twitter, X, Twitch, or YouTube, and if you click those links, it'll bring you onto the show in real time. I see you guys in the green room. Make sure you're over the age of 18 before you come up onto the show, and you'll be able to say what you have to say. Just keep it appropriate. Everybody else who's under the age of 18 and other individuals that would prefer not to be on the show can put their comments in the comment section. So while I understand that Twitch and Twitter more often than not watch and observe instead of comment, this is a highly interactive comment. So if I see your comment, I will respond to it as long as it's appropriate. With that being said, let's go ahead and get things rolling, because today we're going to be talking about an immersive journey into the heart of India, which is a country that's both ancient and modern, chaotic and serene, and for many, a surprisingly affordable place to live and invest. So we'll unpack the facts that include the figures, the real life experiences, and the unique opportunities that await foreigners who are curious about not just living in India, but also building relationships, starting families, and even investing for the long term. So let's dive in. When most people picture India, images of crowded streets, vibrant markets, and a whirlwind of colors and sounds come to mind. Specifically, the only time that most of us have been able to get a glimpse of India is either the background plot of a movie or pictures and videos online. But beneath the surface lies a country of deep traditions, strong family values, and a rapidly modernizing economy. India is where centuries-old customs meet cutting-edge technology, and where community and family aren't just concepts, they're a way of life. But let's start with the most common question. Is India really as affordable as people say? Let's get specific. According to the latest data, India ranks as the third cheapest country in the world for expats and digital nomads. I believe that the Philippines was the lowest. And I think Cambodia was somewhere between 2 and 5. You guys got to look at this stuff. Here's what you can expect to spend, all converted to US dollars for clarity, because I want you guys to understand that this is extremely affordable. For single individuals, $768 to $800 per month, including rent, food, transportation, and basic utilities, which brings to mind Japan, who is also cheaper than this, where the standard of living was about 758 US into the cost per yen in Japan. And it was Nagano, I think it was Nagano or Nagoya, was the countries that the areas, the provinces that we were discussing with the cost of living in Japan, where Japan is offering you guys 23,000, probably at this time 25,000 US dollars to start up a business there and hire 2 natives to run the business with you, which will cover like a year's worth of salary for 2 employees, a year and a half worth of salary for 2 employees, or completely reimburse you for your cost of setting up the business, which allows you to stay in the country for a few years while you manage the place. Either way, back to India though, couples typically spend between $1,000 to $1,200 per month, which ironically is only close to $300 to $400 increase for couples, depending on the lifestyle and the city. Families of 4 spend $1,732 to $1,800 per month, covering the rent, groceries, the school fees, and transportation. That's crazy. I know parking lots cost more money to put your car in America. $1,800 a month for a family of 4. You are not accomplishing that in America. Unless you got a 2-bedroom apartment with 2 boys and they're both in one room and you and your partner is in the other room, because they still gonna make you make 3 times the rent, which means you got to bring in 6,000, and with the average American bringing in almost 2,000, you need 2 incomes to cover that. Now, check this out though. The rent being $334 to $558 is the rent. When I was telling you about how families in India could have the standard of living be $1,800 per month, you think, I know a lot of people think, oh, $1,800, I can rent an apartment for like $900. No, bro, the entire standard of living, including the child's education, is $1,800 per month. That's including diapers and shoes and all this other stuff. That is very cheap. You're not pulling off, like I said before, you're not pulling off an $1,800 a month apartment in America without getting a 2-bedroom and having a second income. But the rent in India, $334 to $558 per month, which ultimately accounts for some Americans' income, like paycheck. You know, some of y'all that are working on those minimum wage jobs or seemingly above minimum wage jobs, where you're making like $500 a week, $1,000 biweekly paychecks, $1,200 biweekly paychecks. The whole month's rent is half of one of your biweekly paychecks. Cheaper in smaller cities though, because more expensive in the major metro areas like Mumbai and Bangalore. You still recognize utilities per month are like $58 to $60. That's going to include the electricity, the water, and the gas, and the garbage collection for an average apartment. Y'all know out here in Florida, we got electric bills upward of $250 to $275 a month for just the electric bill. Some apartment complexes are charging between $75 and $150 a month for the water and garbage disposal. And you put that together, you're spending almost $300 a month for just the utilities in some area. And then if you think about other areas of the United States, north of Tennessee, those individuals that are impacted by Ontario's tariffs, you see those people paying an extra 25% on their electric bill, where they could be paying as much as $300 a month for their electric bill, plus everything else. The internet in India, $9 a month for the basic broadband internet service. Groceries are $100 to $150 a month, which covers the fresh produce, dairy, meat, and staple foods for one person. Now, let's say we multiply that by 4 and say that we're looking at upward of $600 worth of groceries if you really wanted to push the envelope, because really what we're looking at is like a 40% increase per person. And if it's costing $100 to $150 for one person for food, and you multiply that by an extra 40% per person, you're probably still going to be covering about $200 to $300 a month for groceries, $400 a month for groceries for you, the wife, and the 2 kids. Probably less than that, probably closer to $300. Eating out is $4 to 25 cents per $4 to $25 per meal. So eating out, $4 to $25 per meal. And this is going to range from the inexpensive street food to meals at a mid-range restaurant. Public transportation is like $18 per month. The cost of monthly public transportation passes in most cities. Private doctor visits are $15 for short consultations with private doctors. And private schools in the metro area are $2,400 to $3,600 per child for children in international schools in the major cities, where sometimes this particular scenario might cost just a little bit more. Private hospital stays are $1,200 to $2,400 for major medical procedures in a private hospital. So these figures provide a realistic snapshot of urban living costs for expats or families considering a move to India. And consider this: a basic lunch in a business district just costs $4.76. A loaf of bread is 48 cents. A dozen of eggs is $1.20. And a bottle of decent wine is $11 compared to the US, where the average rent for one bedroom apartment in an inner city area is over $2,000. When you look at these values, you see why India is so attractive for budget conscious expats. Metro areas like Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore are higher rents, with $500 to $800 for one bedroom, more amenities, and a faster paced life. You have the tier 2 cities like Mysore, Kochi, and Coimbatore, where their rents are as low as $200 to $350 for feels. Now, I want to touch base with the difference between a fast-paced life and a slow-paced life. The fast-paced lifestyle is going to be the on-the-go movement, the hustle and bustle, trying to get it in and make money for you kind of scenario, versus the slower-paced lifestyles where you take the time to do everything yourself in almost like a rural environment, where you might be on your own farm in your own climate, growing your own crops and doing your own meal prep and building stuff from scratch instead of buying it or paying somebody to do it for you because you don't have enough time to do it. You got to think about the difference between the luxury level of fast-paced life versus the luxury level of the slow pace life, the lack of luxurious slow pace life. That would be the best way to observe that. Rural areas have experienced cost drops even further, but with fewer amenities and less English spoken. So for individuals who are going there, who are fluent with English, and you're going to be living in those expat environments, the foreign national environments, you might find yourself feeling more comfortable in the fast-paced life of the more expensive areas where people are more fluent with English. However, you might want to go to those rural areas where things are a lot cheaper. There isn't as much stuff going on. They don't speak as much English. But if you carry with you some of that English translation software technology that they've been making these days with the glasses that can translate dialogue, they have wireless headphones that can translate dialogue. And since it can translate dialogue in real time, you can wear one earpiece. The person you're talking to can wear another earpiece. You can speak your language to them, and they can speak their language to you. And it's almost like Star Trek when you hit that intercom on your chest and everybody's language is translated. Only in reality, there's going to be a delay, because when you speak, there's going to be a delay in their response, because they're going to be listening to the machine talk to them based on what you said. And then they're going to respond to that, which will have them tell you what they have to say, which will require you to have that delay to listen to what they have to say and then respond back to them, which ironically minimizes arguments, because you can't talk over one another if you don't know what each other says. So it gives them the ability to shut up and then allow you to respond. I really encourage that. I think language barriers are probably beneficial if you're going to be using the delayed communication between the software technology. Now, India's inflation rate cooled down to 3.34% in March of 2025, with food inflation at just 1.78%, helping keep living costs stable. And that stability occurred shortly after Donald Trump went nuts with the tariff situation in February and March. Because the things that happen in America have a trickling effect to every other country around the world, which is one of the reasons why everybody pays attention to America and China, because China's number 2. Not because they're second best, it's because they have the second largest economic standing, while America holds the largest quantity of debt. Make it make sense. Gotta throw you guys in there real quick. We're segueing into Mr. Bayside showing us some love. So I really appreciate them coming in. Just like Bayside, anybody who decides to jump into the show and throw comments, they can throw them into the comments and I will react and respond to you guys from both Twitch and Twitter. Really appreciate you coming in, Bayside. And with that, Bayside, I got Sarah. She's going to be here on Wednesday. We're starting on the dot, 10 o'clock Central Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, because, you know, we got to have respect for her time. She's going to be here on Wednesday. She wasn't able to show up on Thursday, so she's going to be here next week, Wednesday. And long as catastrophic failure doesn't occur for me, we're going to be here on time, kicking things off. So any questions that you want to have with Sarah, you'll be able to come in and ask any kind, because I understand that you're married. You can ask marriage advice because dating continues after the marriage. You could ask hypothetical dating questions even though you're already married, because if you've got that question, somebody else watching the show might have the same question and just don't have the courage to ask it. So by all means, drop in and see what Sarah's got going on. I got some questions myself because remember, we had to reschedule her show because she had to do something with the kids, which means that Sarah is family oriented, which is what most of us are driving for when we're watching this podcast, trying to find loving family driven women. So getting advice from that particular type of person is something that we will definitely be able to work with. Sarah, a while back, I want to say like September, Sarah is a consultant that does dating advice. So this is her profession, and we were supposed to do a collaboration. Oh, he asked me, is she Fit Chef? No, she's not Fit Chef. I would love to have Fit Chef come up onto the show. She is a dating coach. This is her profession. She was dating, doing information about dating. We were covering dating topics. Me and her were supposed to do a collaboration, and it fell through because life got away from her. I respect that. So when she reached out to me recently, she was like, oh, hey, I got lost in time and I do want to do this. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll just squeeze you in. So then we were supposed to be trying to put her on as that dating coach. And then when I told her what time we're airing now, because we used to air at 9 o'clock, and then I pushed it back an hour because I got so much stuff going on through the day. I got to get me a nap in and stuff. And, so then that hour difference, she wasn't able to come to the show. She said, look, let's wait until after my kids are out of school and then I'll make more time for you. Perfect. So now she's coming in and she's going to be giving us that dating advice that we need. So anybody that has a question about dating, because, when I start talking about the ups and downs of making decisions in relationships, I'm not going to be doing what Sarah might be doing, which is giving you guys tricks and skills that you can utilize to convince the other person in the short term to engage you. Because a lot of people talk about relationships from the perspective of flirting. If you flirt the right way, or if you pay attention to the flirting the right way, you can tell based on nonverbal cues that somebody is interested in you. And you can tell based on nonverbal cues that somebody is losing interest in you. And then you're able to adjust your communication with that person to maintain communication in the initial dating phases. And Sarah is probably going to have a lot of information about that. Assuming that's because I didn't get into all of Sarah's personal business, but being a mother, she's probably married and probably been married for a long period of time, which means that she'll be able to tell you how to keep a man. Because that's one thing a lot of women don't do, is ask a wife, how do you keep your husband? Instead, everybody is promoting everybody to leave him. He ain't worth it, and go live that single life. We've been preaching for the longest period of time that you have to find ways to stay in the grind and make it work with somebody where the only flaw that you have in a situation is that y'all don't agree on how the outcome should occur. This isn't situations where you're working out abuse or anything to that effect. We're talking about just working out disagreements or working out the lack of understanding in a relationship that leads to unfavorable outcomes. So I talk about the longevity of things. And the reason why I talk about the longevity of things is because there are a lot of platforms on YouTube that tells people about the psychological manipulation that you can utilize to grasp a girl's attention. You and I were talking about on the other show about how those guys can walk up and go hold a girl's hand and it just takes them by surprise. Those guys that can rizz a girl up in 30 seconds and get her undivided attention for 15, 20 seconds. But these skills or tricks, they're not really skills. You call them skills, but they're not really skills. They're like tricks of the trade to get their initial attention. And I'm from a permanent scenario. I tell you guys about a 20-year plan. And when I talk to you guys about a 20-year plan, it's not just in finance, it's also in relationships. So when I'm talking to you about a 20-year plan, I'm not trying to get a female's attention today when it doesn't look like she's going to be here for 20 years. So I don't have those, if you say this and this, like, remember when we was younger, we used to drop a certain line and, say a certain phrase or piece together a certain metaphor, make the girl giggle. And that's it. That's it. From that point forward, we were working on solidifying this is a relationship. These days, you need more practical approaches. Then on top of that, in addition to those practical approaches, we have to change our perception to observe and understand exactly what you're looking for in this engagement with this other person. Because while a lot of the women, especially the financially challenged women, are looking for financial stability, engaging the value of the man based on his finances, not based on how he treats her, the men have to determine exactly what kind of woman they're getting, because is she going to help you, or is she just going to benefit from being present? I'm not going to say usually, because not all women typically get into a relationship for the sole purpose of using a man. But if you get something and it serves no purpose, then it is a waste of resources, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's a girlfriend, it doesn't matter if it's a boyfriend, it doesn't matter if it's buying a third car and you never drive it. It doesn't matter if you're renting 3 houses and you're only living in one of them. It doesn't matter what it is. So when all of the things that would make a person beneficial to you are replaced by technology and other such things, you got to pay for assistance, you got to pay for help. The person whose roles in the relationship are substituted by other things, that person loses value in the relationship, because the relationship doesn't benefit from the existence of that person, but that person does benefit from the existence of the relationship. So I encourage people, instead of giving them dating tips on how to convince a girl to stay with them, I encourage people to convince themselves that that's the girl that they need to succeed. Because if that girl is not going to benefit them towards their success in accomplishing whatever goals that they're trying to accomplish, that girl is going to become a headache, because you are going to have to take a break from being the successful man that you want to be so that you can entertain her, which is a second job. The same way we discussed on Sunday about that lady who was frustrated that her husband, or not her husband, her boyfriend, was a full-time doctor in a hospital and a higher level grad student still going to college working on a thesis paper. And because he spent full time working, and after that he spent full time working on hiring his education, which would hire his career, because the only time you change positions in the medical field is if you get more degrees and apply for a different position based on your enhanced level of education. So if he's going from a middle level job to an upper level job, that's going to require PhDs and master's degrees. So his bachelor's degree that got him into the surgery position, his BA and his DO that got him into the surgeon position is not enough. He's still going to need a master's and a PhD to get to upper management positions, where he might be one of the directors or the board, where instead of him doing surgeries on patients, he's just having discussions with people and making an extra $100,000 to $200,000 more than what he was making as a surgeon. But she complained about his lack of availability, instead of her finding a way to get in there and help him succeed, where the quality time they spent together was not just entertaining her, where she would prefer to lay on the couch and watch TV instead of being productive. And then when he decided to take his only day off and dedicate it to her being productive, she wasn't interested in being productive because she was a couch potato. All of that is the type of stuff where it's like, well, if he knew what kind of girl she was, he would rethink, is this the kind of girl for me? Because if she's not willing to be a part of what I'm trying to accomplish, then will this relationship last? It's not just about being selfish. It's about recognizing, does this person fit my operation? For example, me, myself, I have the type of operation where I'm on this podcast for several hours. And then after this podcast, I'm working with clients for another 8 or 9 hours, 10 hours. Then I still have to put in 4 to 6 hours of sleep. And then after that, if I wake up, if I'm not going straight back to work, that time slot is dedicated to the people that are important to me, which ultimately means that if my partner says, well, you spend too much time at work, are you suitable for the scenario? Because you have to recognize that while I'm going to connect with you in between clients, and I'm going to connect with you in between podcasts, unless you're on this podcast with me, unless we're going places and you're holding the camera, unless you and I are making videos together where you're aiding me in my success, the likelihood of me straying away from my vision to entertain you, which is different from caring for you and motivating you and driving you to be successful, is not in line with my ability to be successful. I entertain people when I have free time. I can strive for your success while I strive for my success. I can navigate being in more than one place, but I can't navigate that at the same time. But to say, let me stop aiming for my success so that I can entertain you, which is basically just making you smile or wowing you, that's not always in my agenda. So I would have to determine, is she suitable for my operation? Then if she is, then I put forth whatever effort that I need, the hopeless romantic that I am, to encourage her to be a part of this scenario. But she already knows what she's getting out of the scenario because she understands the availability. She would understand the amount of capital that's involved. She would understand the standard of living she would be under. She would understand the access of resources that she would have. If she needed to go somewhere and there were cars that were accessible to her, she would know where those cars are located at. All of the stuff that would be needed for her to say, okay, based on his standard of living and the design of his operation, I will benefit from being involved in it. Now, the question is, will you do what I need you to do while you're here? So Sarah's going to be telling you guys a whole lot different of a dynamic than what I'm going to be telling you guys, because I tell you guys about how to make sure that you, number one, are satisfied with the person that you're choosing before you, number one, first person accountability, put forth effort to convince this person to like you. We have historically traveled down a path as men being duty bound to impress the girl, to get the girl to stay, which is worse than peacocking, because spend all of our time trying to convince somebody who ultimately doesn't like us to like us. We never put in any effort to find out if we like that person. They will become dependent upon us entertaining them, but we can't guarantee that we can depend on them. So my position is, from a male's perspective, we need to make sure that the partner that we're trying to impress is valuable to us, that we can benefit from that person, that we can depend and count on that person before we start putting in all of this effort to commit to impressing that person for the rest of her days. Special shout out to Talenia. Talenia, it's been a long time since we've seen Talenia. Very, very good to see you again. Glad to know that everything's okay with you today. We're covering India, so I wanted you to know that, yeah, we're in there. So, Talenia, you'll see us on Wednesday of next week, because we're live 7 nights a week, but Wednesday you'll see us talking to Sarah. Sarah's going to be dealing with questions about relationships and how to date. And since you have at you, Bayside, Usman, Mr. Satellite, Rev Champ 76, have all been asking some very intuitive questions throughout the show. KJ has asked some off the wall questions, but definitely questions that make you think. So I encourage you guys to make sure that you make time. We should be starting off at about 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, where on Wednesday we have a guest star, Sarah, on the show, and she's going to be talking to us and explaining to us some dating tips and dating advice. So the more y'all that come in and wear out with questions, the the better it is, because I'm going to have a select few rebuttal questions, but you know, for you that come here for dating advice, and I know, Talenia, you've been one watching this from a male's perspective. Next week, Wednesday, you get a female's perspective. So that's the time to dive in. Moving on, we want to talk about in India, because today we're talking about living in India, housing and healthcare and education costs that are rising in major cities in India. So formulating a budget to carefully India when you go to live in India is highly encouraged. So when I got the rundown yesterday, if you watched yesterday's show about how to budget using the methods that the people utilize in China in order to maintain a structuralized spending habit, living frugally instead of living wastefully or living luxuriously, this allows you to become more financially stable and financially successful. And when it comes down to the way things are increasing in cost slightly in certain areas in India, if you decided to go live in India, which has been identified as like the third cheapest places to go, where Hong Kong, that we covered last week, is just as expensive as New York, and one of the most expensive places to go in East Asia. You could find a very satisfactory way of life over there. But let's shift gears and talk about dating, because we was just talking about Sarah and Sarah's covering of the show next week, Wednesday. This is a topic that is both fascinating and nuanced in India, because India is a land where family values run deep, which is completely lost in American culture. And for many Indian women, family is the cornerstone of life, and relationships are seen as a path to marriage and community, which is completely different from the Western culture, where dating typically leads to hookups, one-night stands, friends with benefit, physical relationships, not so much the desire for, because these are short-term physical relationships, not the desire for long-term or permanent relationships, where the average relationship in Western culture right now is existing at not longer than 1 year, 5 months, and 6 days, which is less than a year and a half. And that's bad. But that ultimately means that in 10 years, you would have had 5 or 6 relationships, and consider those long relationships. And then you wonder why men are complaining about the body count, because when you look at frequent breakups with frequent mental trauma from those relationships, you recognize that with no room to recover from the last relationship, you're piling on plenty of baggage when you're dealing with 30-year-old individuals, male and female alike, if they started dating in their 20s, or if they started dating earlier than that in their teens. With two relationship years, he would end up being about 30 relationships. And if you're single in that 15 years, you're looking at 30 failed relationships from, say, 15 to 30. So at 31, 32, with 30 failed relationships, it's a ton of baggage to unpack. Where, like, one of the fans that was on the show last week said that she stopped dating in her 30s and didn't start dating again until her 40s. And then she was able to find a good husband to spend the rest of her life with, where the 8 or 9 years of not dating in her 30s was the quantity of time that it took for her to recover from any negative experiences that she had experienced during the dating phase of her life, when she was frequently on and off in relationships. In India, arranged marriages are still common, especially outside major cities. So if individuals would prefer to go to India, find themselves I can't say that you're going to find yourself a reasonably attractive woman in India, because if I remember correctly, not because the women aren't attractive, but India is one of those cultures where women are fully clothed. And if I remember correctly, that might be one of those cultures where you can see is like the face, or in some situations, just the eyes. So you're not able to observe from across the room or down the street that this female is holding the body type that you're looking for, because they're fully clothed. You would be for the most part, outside of meeting somebody's relative and marriage based on status of the family, you're more likely not going to see the girl until you go to the house, or in a situation where they're not required to be completely covered in garments. So understanding that what you get is what you get. It's like mystery shopping in Walmart's electronic department. You don't know what you're getting until after you've paid for it. But whatever you get, they're dedicated to stay with you for an extended period of time. Now, we do have to understand that there is a rise of dating apps and changing of social norms that are opening up new doors for love and connections. Now, what does this mean for foreign men and what we should know and understand before we go over there? First things first, fellas, respect is key. Indian women, especially those from traditional or family oriented backgrounds, value respect, commitment, and sincerity over financial status. Now, the family involvement is going to be another thing that we're going to have to pay close attention to, because meeting the family is a big step and usually means the relationship is in fact serious. So the quicker she wants to introduce you to her family, the closer you're getting to marriage. The more she would prefer to wait and see, the less sure she is about this relationship. That is the observation of that dynamic. Public displays of affection, completely different from what we would experience in America. Making out with people in the streets, holding hands, all this other stuff that's done in America, this is rare and often frowned upon outside of cosmopolitan areas. So if you have a situation where you would like to express your affections to your girlfriend or your wife, it's not like in America where you could just smack her on the butt and call that affection. Technically, that's a form of abuse, but you know, for some reason, we have understood that smacking a girl on the butt is equivalent to a girl smacking a guy in the face or hitting him in the head with a skillet. It's not complained about. I don't get it. But luckily, if you smack your girlfriend on the butt, they're not going to put you in jail for it in America. But it is frowned upon in India. So you got to change the way you behave if that's how you behave. You also have to remember, because we didn't talk about this before, but there were some of the other cultures that we covered, especially those in Asia, where while it may not be a law, it is socially unacceptable for physical contact to occur between men and women without the appropriate channels being met, which is one of the reasons why you would see Americans that shake hands and fist bump and give hugs to complete strangers. But over in Asia and even in South Korea and stuff, you will see individuals bow and not actually have physical contact towards one another. In America, when they want you to leave, they grab you and they drag you to the door. In Asia and in Korea, you will see them like move their hands in the direction of where they expect you to walk and insist that you go in that direction without actually making physical contact with you, because socially, it is unacceptable to make unnecessary physical contact with other individuals. So you must make sure that you know what you're doing in the culture that you're going to, so that you don't violate social norms, moreover than violating customary laws. Because while you could do something that is considered socially inappropriate that does not get you arrested, it could cause the individuals in the community to dislike you, and a close-knit community might shun you all the way around based on the observation and then the rumor that followed that observation that you don't respect their customs and practices. That's bad for business, in addition to being bad for relationships. Because if this is a close-knit, family-oriented culture and the marriage is dependent upon approval from the family, if the family dislikes you before you meet the family because you don't respect their cultural norms, then you're less likely to marry the girl. So consequences of one's actions, you must make sure that you're not overstepping accidentally simply because that's allowed in your home country, because where you are is the rules you're supposed to follow before where you came from's rules need to be followed. The same way those kids that was smoking weed in America hot planes and went to Russia and went to jail for having weed, you can't go to another country talking about some it's my right as an American citizen, because American citizenship rights only exist on American soil. So as soon as you walk off the embassy, as soon as you walk off of what is declared as American territory, you have no American rights, which means that you have to succumb to whatever expectations that the rest of the culture that you're in at this moment has to adhere to. Where the old saying comes from, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in India, do as the Indians do. Now, language and communication is something else. English is a widely spoken language in urban areas, but learning a few words in Hindi or the local language shows effort and respect. So even if you say it wrong, trying to learn their language when you get there, if you didn't put any effort in learning their language before you got there, shows that you are trying to adapt to their culture. And they will appreciate that and appreciate you as well. And this type of advice would work in other countries like Korea and Japan and Thailand and the Philippines and Asia and other such, because if those of us that are middle-aged and older, where if we knew a second language back in college, we forgot it because we never used it. If we go to a country where we have not learned that language, learning a language as an adult is harder than learning a second language as a child. And it may take us a lot longer to learn that language. And while it is expected when we want people to come to America that they know English before they get here, we will prefer that they at least try to learn it when they get here, instead of refusing to know the language and then forcing us to learn their language so that they can communicate with us. Likewise, uniformity speaking, when we go to another country, since it's going to take us probably more months and years to learn their child would take, we need to put in the effort to try to learn their language while we're there and express the effort in trying to learn their language, where being able to communicate to some magnitude utilizing some of their dialogue indicates that you are interested in trying to adapt, not just boloing your way in and forcing them to do things, because colonization is not a thing anymore. Okay, so you got to make sure that we understand what we're doing. Now, fellas, apps like Tinder, Bumble, and Truly Madly are popular in the cities. Expectations often lean towards serious relationships, even though these apps that I just mentioned are typically leaned on a hookup culture. Many women are open to dating foreigners, especially those who show genuine interest in Indian cultures and values. And this is going to be similar to some of the women in East Asia, where they would at least experiment with the idea, understanding that they're not likely to invest much effort into the seriousness of the relationship unless you can prove, such as permanent relocation or extended stay, that you are serious about that particular type of relationship. Now, if you're showing genuine interest in developing a relationship with that individual, then that individual will put in more effort in seeing the relationship succeed. But for a short-term fling, or just to be able to say that they've tried it, there are a lot of women in a lot of countries that are interested in dating foreigners, especially Americans. And there is this false perception that Americans are rich because Americans come from one of the richest countries in the world, because America is one of the most expensive places to be in the world, even though America is full of debt and 95% of Americans are extremely poor in comparison to the standard of living in America. Now, if for some reason you followed my advice over the past 9 months and took your occupation to an online status where you can make your American wage from the sanctity of your computer in a different country that does not cost as much as America, where your 30, 50, $70,000 a year income on your laptop is embedded in a $12,000 or $8,000 a year standard of living in a different country, then you can live of a rich American in a cheaper environment. And that mentality still supports the mentality of other cultures where women believe that American men are inherently rich. Because if your standard of living in places like the Philippines or in places like India, where the cost of living in India is $1,800, which is it's between $1,000 and $1,800, where the cost of living in the Philippines is around $1,000 to $2,000, and the cost of living in Japan is about $800 or less. If you're bringing in $3,000 a month, you're inherently rich, or at least upper middle class. So pay attention to that. And the reason why I wanted to emphasize that is because when we redirect our attention to the modernized Western women who still look towards a financially stable man and prioritize the man's capabilities and willingness to provide finance to the female, the expectation is going to be worldwide. The difference is that the women in other countries that are more family oriented and less selfishly goal driven would put more effort into the success of the relationship, where westernized women would leave it to the man to put in the effort for the success of the relationship. And that's where the relationships are falling apart, because relationships in Western culture is the man's responsibility to initiate and maintain, whereas in other countries, regardless of who initiates the relationship, both parties will put in the required effort to maintain long-term relationships, which would lead to more successful relationships. Now, in India, there are some safety concerns, particularly for women, but southern states like Tamale, Nadu, Kerala, and Karnataka are known for their strong community bonds and safer environments. Women in these regions are highly educated. They're often highly educated and family oriented and play a central role in the community life. So if you want to go out here to these countries like India, where there is potentially somewhat of a safety concern for the women, the increased quantity of safety issues would be for the men to protect their women from harm, which requires the women to follow the man's instructions so he can keep her safe to that degree at least. But you got a duty to protect your woman in these unsafe environments. Ladies, because we don't just talk about the men, we come from the perspective of men, because this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective. But we tell you guys that y'all can go and live cheaper too in certain places, but there are some issues in certain places that do negatively impact women. So while your overly aggressive alpha boss lady attitude might work in Western cultures, it might compromise your ability to be successful in other more traditional cultures that are, for the most part, from a patriarchal perspective, where the laws and rules and cultural norms do not have as much self-restraint towards the demand of a hierarchy between men and women. So keep that in mind, ladies, when you decide whether or not you're going to go to India. But for the guys, hey, go there if you want to go there. Now, hold on a second. I lost my place. Foreign men often report that once they're accepted by a woman's family and the community, that they're embraced wholeheartedly. So the process may involve navigating cultural differences and learning new customs, but the rewards is going to be a sense of belonging deep relationships, and a supportive network. And this is very significant. So as I told you guys earlier, if in the event that you're going to one of these cultures that is more family oriented with a closer knit community, you want to be careful with how you behave in general population, because if you piss off a stranger, that stranger might know somebody that knows somebody that knows the girl that you're trying to date. And if the community disapproves of you before you meet the family, and the family disapproves of you before they meet the boyfriend, once you get there and introduce yourself as the person that they're not supposed to approve of, it's almost like having a wanted poster out and then turning yourself in thinking you can collect on your own bounty. It's not going to work out in your favor. So India isn't just a place to live affordably. It's also a land of opportunity for entrepreneurs, investors, and those looking to build a future. Recognizing that India's economy is projected to grow the GDP at over 6% annually through 2025, making it one of the fastest growing major economies globally. The startup ecosystem in cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune are global tech hubs with thousands of startups and a vibrant venture capital sense. So the scenery around here for you to get into tech, if you're not already investing in tech, is widely acceptable. Any capital that you don't need would then be reinforced by your capabilities to invest in opportunities that could leave you with a large quantity of investment for your legacy and a better standard of living that doesn't require you to work. Like every other country, real estate is also very attractive because foreigners can purchase certain types of real estate, especially if they hold an overseas citizen of India card or a married to India citizen document. Meaning that if I married somebody from India or got a citizenship card from India, I can go over there and buy real estate from myself, not just for my business. Now, property in tier 2 and tier 3 cities remain affordable. And let's keep in mind that the hierarchy, I believe, is the most expensive ones is tier 1, and then it starts going down in tier 2 and tier 3. And apartments in Mysore or Kocha are available for 40,000 to 80,000 to purchase. Like when they talk about apartments, we're talking about like condos and stuff. And that's actually pretty cheap because in America in 2010, it was that we had condos that were going for like $90,000, which is like owning an apartment. Now, technology and IT in India is a very world-renowned sector, and foreign investments is highly encouraged. Healthcare and education is growing demand where there are government incentives and a young population that makes these sectors very attractive. A lot like in America, when I told you guys, instead of wasting your money with private school, invest in public school. The difference between investing in public school versus paying for private school is that public school is a tax deduction because public school is free to the kids. It is a nonprofit entity that is supplied by the government, which then require any donations to that school is a tax deduction on your taxes. So instead of spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 per semester for private school, if you invested that $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 per semester for your public school, you would have that $9,000 or $10,000 a year worth of tax deductions, kids' education, while gaining respect from the school and providing more resources for your child in that school. So this is something that's done nationwide in different ways, but supporting education for the next generation is encouraged by most countries, and there are incentives behind that support. Let's walk into tourism and hospitality, because Indians' diverse culture and natural beauty create opportunities for boutiques, hotels, travel agencies, and wellness retreats. This means that startups in India have a increased ability to occur, especially in those hospitality and tourism sectors. But there's also initiatives for startups that are backed by the government, such as tax breaks, additional funding for approved startups, and incubation support for new businesses, including those funded by foreigners. And India, unlike a lot of other countries, has an ease of doing business. Reforms have simplified company registration, taxation, and compliance for foreign investors. Redirecting our attention back to those visas and residencies, the person of Indian origin, which is a POI program, accompanied by the OCI, offer long-term residency, investment rights, and work privileges for those with Indian heritage or married to Indian citizens. The long-term visas are available for investors, business owners, and spouses of Indian citizens. So you can go there and get you a long-term visa just because you're about to drop a large quantity of capital into investment opportunities in their country. Now, India does have some tax treaties that has double taxation avoidance agreements with many countries, making it easier to manage finances, where if any event that you have to claim income from India's profits with your American taxes, that you won't be taxed in countries. All you would have to do with that particular scenario is show in your Indian tax forms that you have been claiming this as a taxable income in the United States, and they will exempt you from taxation in India, considering the would have with the United States. Now, India is a family-centric society, and starting a family here comes with both challenges and rewards, because there is a special marriage act that allows foreigners to marry Indian citizens after a 30-day residence and notice period, which means that you're going to have to go there and show them that you've been there for a month before you marry. This required documents include proof of identity and residency and marital status, which means that if you are married, you can't get married. If you are divorced, you have to show valid divorce papers. And if you do not have a marriage on the record to prove, you would have to find some type of documentation that is approved by their government that indicates that you are not married in another country or your country of origin before you get married. And then the recognition comes, because marriages registered in India are recognized internationally through additional paperwork that may be needed for use abroad. So this means that you can't have a wife in India and think that you're going to slide over and get you a wife in Korea and then slide over and get you a wife in America. If you're married in one country, you're married in all of them, which means that if you go to a place like Asia and get married in Asia and get your citizenship in Asia, you can take your Asian wife back to America and get her citizenship in America, because she has to be married to an American. She doesn't in America in order to get citizenship as the spouse of an American. So y'all can work it out where y'all got dual citizenship if y'all do it right. Now, extended families in many cases include grandparents aunts, uncles, and cousins live nearby or even in the same household. Now, most of us in America have this experience where extended family lives in the house due to poor health or lack of income. Especially in low income families, we cater to those that don't have enough. So providing a strong support network is where this type of environment comes from. So you have to recognize that if you move to that country, you're likely going to be outnumbered with cultural norms in your household, because it'll be you, your wife, and any family members that's living in your house, because that is the culture. And you must respect everyone as a whole, as opposed to in America, where if you don't like someone, you can mistreat them because it's your house. It doesn't work that way. In their culture, if you mistreat their family in your house, you could damage your relationship with your partner and the community at large. Got to be careful. Child care is extended family, often individuals that are going to be helping with the kid. Before you go out and find strangers to take care of the child, you're going to be leaving your kid with somebody that's related to you or related to your partner. But this makes it easier for parents to balance work and family life, because instead of you spending a bunch of money for daycare centers, you're just going to leave the child with the auntie, uncle, grandma that was responsible for the care of your girlfriend or your husband. So you already know what they're doing, because the person that you married was raised by them. And you're satisfied with the outcome of your partner. So you should be satisfied with the outcome of your child. There you go. Now, schools internationally in major cities that I told you before, charging between $2,400 and $3,600 per year for local private schools, can be less expensive in certain areas. And you want to remember that the hospitals that offer world-class care with major procedures are still going to be costing about $1,200 to $2,400, but you can get some that are less involved for far less expense. You get what you pay for. Health insurance is widely available and extremely affordable, regardless of which direction that you go. Spouses and children of Indian citizens can apply for the OIC status and granting residency and work rights. So if you are a foreigner as a woman and you give birth to a child of a native, your child can get citizenship that way. If your wife is a native, your child can get citizenship that way, even though the father is not a native. So you don't even have to worry about what nationality would a child be. If one of you is Indian, the child is Indian. Now, that also means that if one of you is American, you can still bring your child over to America and get your child dual citizenship. And regardless of the wait time, if you are applying for dual citizenship on your child's first birthday, by the time your child is 15, 16, 17 years of age, where their citizenship status might matter for their first job, you should have gotten them their citizenship. So just go through the motions. Now, OIC holders can buy residential properties, making it easier to settle and invest in long-term scenarios. If you start up a business out there in real estate, you can buy residential properties and you can buy multifamily properties, which allows for you to expand. And if you're buying multifamily properties and residential properties and providing housing for the rest of the family, even if they become your tenants, not only are you going to be more liked by the community, you're also going to be profiting from the community that likes you. There you go. You just can't be a bad landlord. Now, remember the cultural integration, because children raised in India benefit from multilingual education, and they're also exposed to diverse cultures. And we do have to go back and touch base on the crime rate, because petty crimes exist in crowded cities. So you're going to have to deal with getting pickpocketed and other such things. And violent crime rates are relatively low in comparison to the hundreds of thousands of people that are getting stabbed and murdered in America. Southeastern states and smaller cities are often considered safer. The less people in a condensed area the safer every neighborhood is around the world, regardless of the culture. No matter how violent a country may be perceived, the lower populations have lower crime rates. It is just a statistical average. So, living in the major city where the largest majority is condensed in a smaller area is less favorable for anybody in any country around the world than living in an area where the neighbors have to take a 20-minute walk to get to your house. Think about that. Back to the women's safety. With strong community bonds in the South and smaller cities enhancing safety, women are able to exist with family in a less catastrophic environment. Now, that coupled with affordable meals, where a meal at a local restaurant costing about $4 to $6, with street food being cheaper, groceries and fresh foods being inexpensive per pound, where chicken could be found for $2.10 and a kilo of apples is like $2.28. You'll be able to enjoy Indian cuisines, which is a variation that people like, including vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free options for any individuals that have specific diets that they would try to maintain while they're going abroad. But that doesn't take away from the festivals, because Indians' calendar is packed with festivals. Diwali, Holi, Eid, Christmas, each offering a chance to connect with neighbors and experience the richness of Indian culture. Community events, religious gatherings, and neighborhood associations create a strong sense of belonging. So why consider India? India offers a rare blend of affordability, tradition, and opportunity. Whether you're looking for a place to stretch your dollar, find a loving partner, raise a family, or invest in a booming economy, India has something that you would be looking for. Affordable living gives you the ability to live comfortably on $800 to $18 per month, depending on your lifestyle and family size. Rich relationships are able to be built with meaningful connection and family-oriented women becoming a part of a excessively supportive community. Investment potential that allows you to tap into one of the world's fastest growing economies with incentives for foreign entrepreneurs and families. And your ability to focus on your family and your future while raising children in a culture that values education, respect, and community. So if you're ready for an adventure that is as rewarding as it is challenging, India is waiting with open arms, vibrant tradition, and endless possibilities. I want to appreciate you guys for coming to tonight's show. Make sure that you guys share your thoughts and your questions. Or if you guys have any stories about your trips abroad, whether it's India or any other country that you've been to, make sure that you leave that information into the comments section. And definitely stay tuned for other shows where we will be exploring follow-ups on some of India's incredible festivals and traditions as they come about. Make sure that you guys keep the conversation going, because we're going to be talking about a lot of other things along the way. And tomorrow, since we're going to be diving back on social improvement and self-improvement, we're going to be coming up with more elaborate conversations as to how we're going to improve our networking skills and interaction skills and our capabilities to make decisions. I actually think now I'm probably going to focus primarily on prioritization of one's agenda and how to accomplish those goals without reasonable distraction. So keep in touch with all of the shows that's going to be coming up for the rest of the week. As here on This and That, we're going to be talking about a different topic every day of the week, with Sunday being our questions and comments show. And never forget that we will not let the sun rise without going live. So as long as something doesn't happen to me, you will always see me here eventually. With that being said, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking y'all to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. One more time, special shout out for Talenia Bayside, Usman, Mr. Satellite, Max Opposer, his dad, Joe, Mr. Pibbs, Reese Martinez, Jesse Hernandez, Nico, Nikki, Victoria B, and all of those who show us support, Danny Steffen, Red Void, Daniel from Twitter. I really appreciate you guys for coming to the show. Thank you for coming to This and That, where I'm your host, Xander. We talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command.